Wherever Rosie O'Donnell's gone, she's probably eating a leprechaun. She's our hero of the day for leaving America if Trump won and relocating to Ireland, where she's still not funny. So many celebs say they're going to do it, but never do. But does she have any regrets?
I have no regrets. Not a day has gone by that I thought it was the wrong decision. I was welcomed with open arms. I knew after reading Project 2025 that if Trump got in, it was time for me and my non-binary child to leave the country.
Is a dispute between overly heated viewpoints and poorly prepared comebacks if you enjoy chaos, pettiness, and witnessing someone get verbally vaporized. Congratulations. Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly just took Rosie O'Donnell to the intellectual woodshed without remembering to bring the filter. This wasn't a debate, but rather a roast served on a silver platter of snark with Rosie playing the main course. Gutfeld came swinging with punchlines, Megyn brought receipts, and Rosie brought, well, confusion.
Gutfeld, join me now for Where Are They Now? Political Style. By the way, they never give you the real reason why they're leaving. Like Ellen DeGeneres says she was going to London because of Trump. No, it's because she was a monster and everybody hates her. That's the same thing with Rosie. You know why she's leaving, right? We know why she's leaving. Come on. We know. It's literally an ego trip. Once nobody likes you, you just leave.
If self-importance were an Olympic sport, Rosie O'Donnell would have more gold medals than Michael Phelps. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Rosie O'Donnell is a name that once reverberated through daytime talk shows like a confused foghorn blasting loud, but somehow always off-key. Imagine a career trajectory shaped like a roller coaster built by a committee of clowns full of unexpected twists and sudden drops. And that one guy who forgot to fasten his seatbelt.
As I haven't tortured you enough with clips from Nicole Wallace and Rachel Maddow, I decided I saw it, and so you had to as well. The following clip from Sex and the City, their latest sequel. I don't know.
I know what this is. Oh, no.
I'm sorry, Jashinsky, but it's happening. It's happening.
Oh, no.
For the listening audience, we are about to see Miranda, the character played by Cynthia Nixon, who is so annoying, in bed with a virgin nun played by Rosie O'Donnell. I just threw up a little in my mouth. Go ahead, roll it.
You are amazing. Oh, I have never experienced anything like that.
Oh. Ew. Oh my God. I'm so grossed out, Emily. You have to talk.
Remember when Rosie was the queen of daytime TV? Her style was a mix of Martha Stewart and I'll yell at you until you cry, with a dash of did she really say that on live television? At the time, viewers weren't sure if they were watching a talk show or a full-contact verbal wrestling match. She wasn't just hosting a show, she was verbally punching viewers like a prize fighter with too much coffee and too many self-help books.
Apparently America couldn't be happier, but like I said, she's our hero of the day for doing what so many other celebs don't have the guts to do. Wow, first Ellen, now Rosie. Makes you wonder what lesbian will leave next.
And then, like a bad sequel, no one asked for Rosie's talents elsewhere. If by talents you mean the special capacity to turn any platform into a stage for unending outrage, whether it be politics, pop culture, or anything else under the sun, Rosie had an opinion and wasn't afraid to express it with the tact of a bull in a china shop.
Else betrays them. Not disclosing when you're in bed with somebody that you have herpes. It's important to disclose before you have interludes that you have the herpes virus. I'm sorry, Exhibit A. Here's Rosie O'Donnell bitching and moaning about her favorite person, Donald Trump. I think this is before she moved. I can't keep track of where she's living in the world to avoid him. Watch.
Two sardonic TV personalities, Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly, have mastered the art of dismantling inflated egos one sarcastic barb at a time with their own brand of charm and a penchant for sarcastic repartee. Watching them vent on Rosie is like watching a well-tuned machine dismantle a rusted, large appliance. It's unavoidably satisfying and somewhat cathartic.
She came out later and told the world she has Donald Trump inflicted herpes from stress. And I wonder, Eliana, whether really there was a legal obligation there for her to disclose that to the character of Miranda.
I have to say, she seems to be in a lot worse condition than Rachel Maddow and Nicole Wallace in terms of fighting fascism or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't even have a response to that.
No, you
I don't think
can't. It's
anybody
stomach
wants to
turning.
see that.
It's too
Like
upsetting.
Anybody wanted
Donald
to see
Trump
that.
would never inflict herpes on Rosie O'Donnell. I think he's made that very clear.
Oh, that's a rich vein. Rosie frequently attempts to embody the spirit of political activism through her political commentary, but ultimately comes across as a bewildered visitor in a city she hardly comprehends. It's like watching someone attempt to play chess while only understanding the movement of the pawns and then yelling at the other players for being too aggressive. The amount of misguided assurance is astounding. It's as though every loud outburst and tweet was a Nobel-worthy argument rather than merely noise pollution. And let's not even discuss her attempts to be a woke social media influencer. If being irate and boisterous was a sign of moral superiority, Rosie would be the ultimate boss. But spoiler alert. Her virtue signaling frequently comes across as less motivating than an activist and more like that one partygoer who spoils everything by ordering a double cheeseburger and giving a lecture about carbon footprints. The hypocrisy is really obvious. Let's discuss her notorious Twitter outbursts, those online firestorms in which she fights opponents like their worst adversaries but frequently comes across as the Twitter equivalent of a child who just dropped an ice cream cone. She is more of an angry cat lady screaming into the void on social media than she is participating in conversation. The emptiness merely sighs and walks on.
Truly, she seems miserable, and it doesn't really matter where she goes. She's trying to get away from whatever is inside her, because I looked at her and I go like, wow, she has changed.
I mean, she's changed, but she's also the same. But I love that she deported herself because she's so upset about the illegals being deported. So she deported herself, which is good for her. But I don't know if she really did her homework because Ireland has a ton of illegals.
Yeah.
In fact, Ireland and the United States are both actually right up there. England's not doing much better. So Ellen DeGeneres and Rosie O'Donnell, I guess, are where they should be. But I love that they actually did go forward.
She has a tendency to include everyone in her drama, whether they are celebrities, old acquaintances, or members of the public. Rosie has a talent for transforming small arguments into grand tales of treachery and victimization. Her plotline is so tired and repetitive that it could support a daytime soap opera for decades, but she never seems to realize how little sympathy she truly receives because when you keep playing the victim, people begin to suspect that you might be the villain. Greg and Meghan's roast is more of a public service announcement than a roast. This is what happens when you take yourself too seriously, ignore reason, and let your ego run wild like a child in a candy store. They dissect Rosie's antics with wit, sarcasm, and an almost surgical precision that leaves no room for rebuttal because, let's face it, Rosa's response would probably just be another episode of incoherent rambling or a rant about how the media is out to get her. Their jabs aren't just personal. They cut right through the facade Rosie attempts to pass off as some sort of cultural prophet. But underneath the layers of loud shirts and louder opinions is just a frustrated woman desperately trying to remain relevant. It's strangely wonderful to see Greg and Meghan tear her down because it's like watching a well-built sand castle crumble under the weight of reality.
Oh my God. I'm so grossed out, Emily. You have to talk. I can't.
You're grossed out, but you're not sorry. You're just forced up.
Why should I be the only one who suffers? You all have to suffer. We're in it together.
Guys, I saw it trending and I was like, oh, I can't click on this. I can't. And you know what? Actually, though, I think by watching it, it's just such an example of how bad the writing is on that show. Like the writing on some of these shows, it's like they put it into like progressive chat GPT and come up with just like the worst dialogue. It's so bad.
The career of Rose O'Donnell serves as a warning. If you insist on alienating everyone around you with a combination of self-righteousness and unpredictable behavior, talent alone won't get you very far. She's managed to turn what could have been a successful media career into a string of public outbursts that even reality TV would reject as being too extravagant, and just to spice things up, Rosa's recent attempts at political commentary sound less like well-informed viewpoints, and more like the allegations of a conspiracy theorist on a caffeine rush. She makes them with the tact of a child tossing spaghetti at the wall in the hopes that something will stick. While Rosie may consider herself the people's champion, the majority of it just slides off, creating a mess that she is too proud to clean up. Greg and Meghan present an alternative image. One of a lady alone in her own echo chamber, screaming into the void and questioning why no one is applauding their takedown. Which goes beyond simply making fun of Rosie. It's an expert demonstration of how to destroy someone who has spent years cultivating an image based on indignation and entitlement.
Rosie O'Donnell, I think he's made that very clear.
Since Eliana refuses to play, Emily, I've got another soundbite for you.
I didn't even know Sex and the City was back on the air. I saw it when
it's happening. You have to react live to the herpes. I'm sorry.
And I was like, oh, you know what? The culture stuff, that's Emily's bailiwick anyway.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here's another beauty. This is Rosie in another scene singing to Miranda. Enjoy.
Because I knew you. Because I knew you. I have been changed for good. That's from Wicked. I take yours.
From her extravagant daytime diva days to her social media meltdowns and political missteps, Rosie's legacy is a tutorial in how not to manage fame. She is a living warning sign that reads, "Don't take yourself too seriously, or this is where you'll end up." The best part of this whole spectacle is watching the unstoppable force of reason collide with the immovable object of Rosie's ego. Spoiler alert, the force tends to win. For this reason, Rosie O'Donnell will always be the gift that keeps on giving for comedy, sarcasm, and reminding us all what happens when you confuse shouting louder with actually having something worth saying. Greg and Megyn, with their razor-sharp wit and zero patience for nonsense, are the perfect counterbalance to her loud, chaotic presence. Greg and Megyn have just produced a roast that is unquestionable. Despite the fact that you are a legend, most good people laugh at you rather than with.
Rosie O'Donnell ditching the U.S. for Ireland in the wake of Trump's victory, and the president is responding. Watch it.
You know, you have Rosie O'Donnell. Do you know who she is? Do you know who she is? Yeah. You're better off not knowing.
Wow, hardest hit, not even knowing who she is. That one's got hurt. But she did prove that self-deportation can work, right?
Yeah, they'll find out soon enough when she gets there and eats them out of house and home. You know, I have this idea, and I'm going to give it to Fox Nation because that's the kind of person I am. You know, the V8 specials, Where Are They Now? Yeah. They need to do Where Are They Now for political moments. The legendary debate, Trump, Megyn Kelly, Rosie O. Where are they? So you have where did one catapulted to the presidency, one went to NBC and then to podcast stardom, and the other one went to the land of the potato.
You'd think that after decades in the spotlight, Rosie O'Donnell would have learned the fine line between being outspoken and asking people to stop. But instead she barrels on with the subtle grace of a freight train full of bad takes and out-of-date pop culture references. If there's one thing she's mastered beyond the art of shouting into the void, it's turning every single platform she touches into an inadvertent comedy of errors. Consider that signature. Rosie Charm is able to create controversy out of thin air more quickly than most people can get a coffee. Rose treats every disagreement as a personal insult, a betrayal, and an existential threat to her very being, all wrapped up in one dramatic package that demands center stage. You may recall when she launched yet another crusade against anyone who dared to disagree with her, but the sheer enthusiasm with which she wields outrage is so over the top that it almost makes you nostalgic for the days when celebrities merely offended people politely. Every time she publishes, her actions turn Twitter into a battlefield, and Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly are adept at deconstructing this online mayhem with surgical precision. Greg's cunning grin and sneer say, "You really just said that?" And when it comes to revealing the ridiculousness behind Rosie's exaggerated antics, Megyn, the queen of subdued yet deadly sarcasm, makes for a formidable team.
Rosie is so outspoken. Imagine the horror in being a Democrat, like maybe a normal Democrat, like an old, blue dog Democrat, Eliana, and having one of the people most associated with your brand out there pointing to some huge growth right underneath her nose, saying it might be a pimple or it's a herpes, and then delivering an update. It's a herpes. I have herpes. Look at my herpes virus. It was caused by Donald Trump. And then asking us to picture her in bed with a vibrator and Cynthia Nixon. And then they're like, why can't we get young men on Team Blue?
Now the thing about Rosie is she often tries to play the moral compass of society as if she's the last bastion of truth and justice in a world gone mad. But when you scratch the surface, it's mostly just a smoke screen for a woman desperately clinging to relevance by throwing tantrums louder than any reality TV meltdown. It's like watching a toddler insist the sky is falling just because someone took away her favorite toy, except the toy in this case is public attention, and she's willing to shout until the end of time to keep it. And that's where Greg and Megyn come in with the kind of roasting that's not just funny, it's absolutely necessary, because if Rosie was left unchecked, she'd probably have us all convinced that her latest Twitter rant is the intellectual equivalent of a Nobel Prize lecture. But no, what we get instead is a spectacle of self-indulgence and a masterclass in missing the point entirely. Her political commentary, let's just say it's like watching a drunk uncle at a family barbecue try to explain quantum physics passionately wrong and painfully embarrassing. Rosie's take on politics often feels less like thoughtful analysis and more like a barrage of hashtags thrown together in a desperate attempt to sound woke. But Greg and Megyn strip all that away with their sharp humor, highlighting the gap between Rosie's self-perception and the reality that most people just want to mute her. And speaking of muting, how about Rosie's attempts at being a social media warrior? The woman treats Twitter like it's her personal battleground, firing off tweets like verbal grenades with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. She swings wildly at anyone and everyone, from celebrities to random strangers, with an intensity that suggests she might be compensating for something. The only problem is, while Rosie is busy swinging, the rest of us are ducking and covering, wondering how someone can have so much time and so little filter. At the end of the day, Rosie O'Donnell's legacy isn't just about her work in entertainment or her forays into political commentary. It's about being a walking cautionary tale of what happens when ego and outrage go unchecked. Greg and Megyn's roast serves as a reminder that fame without self-awareness can be a dangerous combination, and that sometimes the best way to deal with a loud, blustering figure is to turn the heat up with a little humor and a lot of truth. So even though Rosie O'Donnell may keep shouting into the internet, know that somewhere in a studio Greg and Megyn are prepared with the next sharp-tongued takedown, reminding us all why, in the world of media meltdowns, sarcasm is sometimes the only sensible response to celebrity chaos.